All right, guys, thanks for coming. Are we having a really good junior beef?
Yes.
Yeah, we learnt a lot?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, we're going to go through some TSU stuff. Does anyone know what TSUs stand for? TSU. What was that? Tissue sampling unit, correct, absolutely. So what do we use tissue sampling units for? For DNA, awesome. For genomics, for genetics, absolutely. Man, you guys are all across it. That's easy. So Nifty and I, we work for Allflex, which are a part of MSD. And we make tags, mostly visual and EID tags, but we also make TSUs. Does anyone use Allflex tags? Yeah, hands, absolutely, awesome. Cool. Has anyone seen this formula before? P equals G plus E? Yes, a couple people do ag at school, biology, yeah, cool. So what's a phenotype?
It's what they look like.
Phenotype is what they look like, their production traits, absolutely. Genotype? The genetics, which they inherit from their parents. Excellent. Environment. What environmental factors impact on what an animal produces? Yeah, exactly. So broad buckets. I usually talk about things like nutrition, which is hard country, soft country, exactly what you said. Management is how you're managing your animals. Are they stressed? Have they got shelter? Disease, obviously if they're diseased, they're not going to be producing as well as they could be. And climate is a big one. You don't want to put a Brahman down in Tasmania. It's probably going to get very cold and not produce as much as it would up here in the subtropics. So, like we said, an animal's genetics are inherited from its parents. And to determine the genotype, farmers do genetic testing. So there's 3 different ways to do genetic testing. That is drawing blood, which we don't usually do on cattle because it's a little bit dangerous, it takes too long, it's very time consuming. We pull tail hairs. Problem with tail hairs, 1, you've got to catch the animal, 2, you've got to clean the tail. 3, you've got to pull the tail hairs, make sure you get a good follicle. Do we all know what a follicle is? Yep, awesome. So DNA is in that follicle. With tail hairs, they'll send that follicle attached to the hair to the lab, and then a lab assistant's got to sit there and slice very thinly the follicle. They lay it out on a sheet and treat it with some stain and put it into a machine. It's a really time-consuming process for the lab. And then there's TSUs, so we said tissue sampling units. So with that, we take a punch out of the animal's ear. That punch gets deposited into a buffer solution in the TSU itself, and that solution draws out all the DNA, and the lab actually samples the buffer solution. So you can get up to 5 tests out of a single TSU. With tail hairs, you've got to have multiple hairs to be able to do the same thing. So the lab then collates all the results, sends them back to the farmer, and that's how we calculate all of our EBVs. What does EBV stand for? Estimated breeding value. And that's how we compare animals from the farm next door, a farm in another state, overseas. It's all factual information. So our TSUs, clean, uncontaminated, so they seal as we take the sample. It actually seals, so you don't get any contamination. With tail hairs, if you don't store them properly, you can get some contamination. Uses ear punch, multiple tests. So you can use a TSU at time of birth to test for diseases, and there's no interference from maternal antibodies. So we know when we give colostrum to a calf, that's mum's immune system helping out the calf's immune system. Sometimes mum's antibodies can impact on the calf, and you can't pick up that disease. So with a TSU, because it's a tissue sample, not a blood sample, you can pick up disease if it's there.
Question about that though.
Yeah.
If you say your calf was drilled, you gave him antibiotics,
Yep.
would TSU pick that up or not?
Would the TSU pick up the antibiotics? No, it would pick up the higher white blood cell count of the animal if that was the case. Yeah, absolutely. It's a good question. Alrighty. That's the applicator that takes TSUs. So we take a TSU sample 1 to 2 centimetres into the ear. We want to avoid large veins, so the 2 big veins inside of the ear, and you want to avoid any cartilage ridges as well. So we've got some ears and we're going to do some testing as well. We'll take some TSUs. So we've already sort of spoken about this, the 3 things that you can get from genetic testing: parentage, traits, so that's things like wool gain, eye muscle area, fat coverage, colours, polled, non-polled. The list is enormous. But diseases as well, so genetic diseases and also diseases that can be picked up in tissue. So why genomics rather than just visually classing and seeing animals? So we've all had that experience where you walk an animal into the ring, you're parading it around, and a judge says, that's the best animal here, you're getting first place. And then you parade the same animal a week later at a different show with a different judge, and they might put you last, right? Judging can be subjective depending on what a judge preferences over another judge, right? So what I call is a really good animal, you might call as a really bad animal. But if we look at the genetics, we can factually see where they fall on a scale. So it's like this picture on the left here. Do you see a duck or a rabbit? What do we see? Both. Some people say rabbit, some people say duck. I see a seagull. But we all see different things, right? We all pick up different things at once, and then when somebody else says something, then you start to see something different, right? Whereas with DNA, we know exactly what we have every single time. So Allflex are the only company to make TSUs, and this is just a little bit of an explanation on the numbers. So TSUs, you can either get them individually or you can get them in a set. Has everyone seen those sets? So that just, all that set does is it matches the visual number to the number on the outside of the NILS tag. That's the NILS ID. And it also matches the electronic number. So we know NILS tags have 2 different numbers. They've got the number on the outside and the number that scans. So the scanned number or the RFID number is what's on that little barcode on the end of the TSU. And that's how the lab knows which animal got which TSU sample when we send it to them. All right, so this is a quick little video showing how we use them. All right, so we scan our NILS. It's just going into a Gallagher TSI weigh scale indicator. And then we put on our visual ID number, ID tag, into the applicator. Next we'll scan the TSU, so we know that that TSU is going in that animal. And we pop it into the applicator. You set the cutter tip by squeezing the pliers together, and then you throw away the safety cap. Safety cap's just there to hold the whole thing together. And then we put it into the animal. So NILS tag in. Visual tag in. When you're tagging Brahmins, make sure you're not folding the ear over too much when you're doing it, because you might tag the ear together. And this is the TSU. Done. Super fast, super easy, nice and safe. Alrighty. Did anyone have any questions on that?
How we do it at home different to that?
You do it.
Is there a right or wrong way to tag to do it?
As in TSUs or tags?
Both.
Both.
If we clean the ear with like method to make sure there's no stuff on it,
That's fine.
and then we put TSU where we put our nails, so we only put one hole in. Is there a right or wrong way?
So I wouldn't use a TSU hole to put in the NILS tag. The only reason that I say that is that ideally you don't want to be reusing holes, because that hole is already there. When you put the NILS tag through, it'll stretch it even more, and that could make your NILS tag loose, and over time that extra movement in the NILS tag will wobble it out. So I always say do 3 holes. I can see why you do it that way. It's one less hole in the animal. But yeah, definitely not a recommendation from us. Alrighty.
So everyone, who's done TSU sampling?
A few
Well, we've
people.
got some ears
Awesome.
here. If guys want to come up and practice doing it, get the feel for it.
Where's the best place to do it?
So, best place to do them, right? So your nils tag. Ideally, you want to put your nils tag, so you always want to go in between the two big veins that run down there. Camera, two big veins. Nils tag, you want to do it about a quarter of the way in from the head. The visual tag, you want to do halfway. So that hole there is probably quite right. Now,
And
these
that's just
are...
positioning of the tags, because that's very important to whether they stay in or not.
Alright, so
that's
you want it to
why-
look like that,
Yep.
and then your visual tag.
And that's just a golden rule, just to remember. Up as high as you can for your nils, your management tag a little bit lower. With your TSU,
And that's perfect placement.
anywhere where there's not as much hair, so we know it's going to get hair from the other side, so anywhere in there, put it through, yep, press it pretty hard, yep, that's it, let it go out. The little green bobbles there, so it tells you you've taken it correctly.
Oh, yeah.
So you just squeeze those two things in, take
Pull her
out
out.
your tissue, yep,
Always just check that there's a little chunk of ear in there.
yep,
That is yum. That's
yep, and then to get the little needle out, just like that, just pull it back. Yeah, so you've got to practice loading them up, like if you've done it before, yeah.
Alright,
Remember?
I'll take one of those.
Do you want me to- Yeah, so that way, just open
So
it
yeah,
up
just like somewhere where there's no...
there.
Squeeze
Like
nice and
that,
hard,
yep, that's
perfect.
right. So then you just squeeze it gently so it grabs that white thing.
Yep.
Take out
Pull
the
those two
safety.
apart. Yep, there you go, perfect. And then just check that there's a chunk of ear in there. Done. Awesome.
I did it. Kidding.
Alrighty. Who's next?
So that's ready to go.
All right.
So when that's the safety.
That's so cute.
Take
Who's
it
up?
off, ready to go.
Alrighty. Load a nils tag up for me.
Line it where there's
So with
no
your
hair.
nils tag, I don't know if you guys know this or not, it's a little triangle. Always make sure that that's to the outside. Otherwise you crush the transponder and it won't read.
Yep,
Back
little
to
green
front.
thing down.
You're back to
Yep.
front.
It is too.
Yep. It's easy as that. So the most important thing is
Perfect.
just
So yeah, that's pretty good. You could almost go in a little bit more if you wanted to, but that's not too bad. All right, load that fella up.
around, just make sure it's right. Then just gently squeeze that in. You hear that little click?
Just in next to it.
Show the red thing. Ready to go.
Perfect.
Else wanna go? Good.
So with your applicators, in nils tags, we always take out that insert.
Anywhere in that.
For your nils
that
tags,
channel,
gives it a little bit extra room to
as long as
fit.
there's not too much.
Visual tags, you want to leave that in. If you pull them all out and then you use visual tags without that insert, they move around a fair bit and it can cause retention problems long term. All right, TSU.
And that's it.
All right, so to load her up, pinch the, yep, and that just
Yep,
goes in
so
like that.
squeeze that.
Let them go. Squeeze together.
Yep, so it's grabbed. So
Yep, and release. You just flick that one out.
You'll just
All right, there's your ear.
sort of flush up there.
See ya.
Somewhere. Alrighty.
Over test
Good man.
dingus. Shove a swab up then.
All right.
Which one's up, which one's down?
So yeah, that's up. Yeah, it is cold.
It's cold.
You'd rather it be cold than hot. Trust me.
So same thing. Try and get a position where
Yep. Hard. Hard. It's half frozen. Squeeze. There you go.
Bugger off, Dallas.
it's in there.
Awesome.
I said bugger, not
Visual tag.
Yeah, no, just shut up.
All right. So when you finish,
us all a favour.
pull the thing back. That just releases the tag. Anybody else want to have a go? Yep.
hang on, which
I'll
one's
grab
up?
some
That
more.
way.
That way's up. Yeah.
Hardware's not on the base.
Yeah.
That is just disgusting. Where did you do it? It's in her.
Yes, Luke.
On the table.
Awesome.
Load it up.